All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. Hope you're doing well. Today, I wanted to just talk about Mount Everest for a little bit. And most of you have probably seen stories in the past couple weeks where 11 people have died, and then they show these totally ridiculous pictures where hundreds of adults are standing in a single file line wearing bright colored, puffy down suits, waiting for their shot at a barbecue story. They want to listen. This is Tim. He climbed Mount Everest. So that's good for him. And it's sad to see those pictures because Everest was the adventure, climbing Mount Everest, and now the people have to feel ridiculous standing there planning a year, getting fit, buying all the gear, and then you're just hooked into this rope that everyone else is hooked into. There's no like, all right, we need to figure out the route of this mountain. We need to be creative. We need to show our climbing skills. It's just like dun ba dun da dee da da dun, single file line. I hope I get the story at the barbecue because I'm unsatisfied with life. It just is totally ridiculous. And this isn't the first year that this happens a lot with the whole lines and with the 10, 11 people dying. And like in 2012, the favorite Everest documentary talks about this woman named Sharia Sha, which in 2012, at the age of 33, she says, I am going to climb Mount Everest. And her friends were just like, what? You hate walking. You want to call a cab if we're too far away from the restaurant. You want to what? And she goes, I am going to the top of Mount Everest. And where she was in her life was, she was 33. She had worked on cruise ships. She was from Nepal, worked on cruise ships, met a Canadian guy. They get married and moved to Canada. And she tried to open a Indian spice shop in Canada, which failed. And then she tried to get into politics. And she worked for a fringe party, and they only got a couple hundred votes. So that failed. And I think she found herself at 33, a little bit directionless, probably a little... she needed something. She needed a win and a feather in her cap and something to attach her ego to that wasn't these failing businesses and political career. And so without ever climbing a mountain, I mean, I don't even know if she's been on a fucking hike, this lady. She finds some guiding company that'll take her money. All the good guiding companies want you to have experience, but if you just go down the list, there's someone's going to take your $75,000 and be like, yeah, we'll try to help you get up. So some startup guiding company that never even been up there themselves were like, yeah, we'll take you. And she goes to Mount Everest a couple months before because you got to hike around up there and acclimatize and sit in a tent and make sure your body's ready. So she gets out there and starts climbing around, and everybody was saying she is going to die. She is the slowest person we've ever seen. She has no business being here. And the guiding company was like, she is very slow, but she does not get a headache. We will take her. And everybody is saying she's going to die. And the people that are helping her are going to die too. What is going on? Has everybody gone mad? And on climbing day, by the time it's time to go for it, even her guiding company's like, you can't go. You can't go. You just can't go. You're too slow. You're just not. And she said, I'm going. I paid this money. This is my goal. I am going. And so they said, okay. And they set off. And there's whole time limits on everything. Like, you need to be up at a certain point and down by a certain point, and you need to manage your energies to make sure you have enough to come back and all this stuff. And she puts one foot in front of the other, and much to everybody's surprise, lugs her body up to the top of Mount Everest. Well, the problem is she didn't have any energy left, and 7 hours into coming down. So now she's been hiking for 27 hours straight. She's out of oxygen. She's out of energy. She should have turned down hours and hours ago. She should have never even gone to the top. She can't really even walk, so she's sitting there, and the two Sherpas are holding her up, and they're exhausted at this point too, and they're saying, come on, keep walking, come on, you gotta keep going. And she's just, and then, she sits down like a lot of people before, just that are out of energy and have no business being up there. And she sits down and she can't walk anymore. She's just sitting on a really tall, cold hill, probably getting hit with a dose of reality that none of us could ever imagine. Imagine sitting in the snow and and people are coming up that are climbing Everest the next day, that have left the next day. She should have been in her tent a day ago. And as people are passing her, she's begging them, don't let me die. Someone help me, don't let me die. And as much as you got to feel for her, it's like, what did you expect? You've never went on a hike before. And you thought you would just have a story at a barbecue. Hey, this is Sharia. She didn't fail in politics. She didn't fail at an Indian spice company in Canada. She climbed Mount Everest. That's what she wanted. If I can get that, then everything else will just dissolve away. Well, she's on Mount Everest, and she's just sitting there like a sad, unqualified lump of flesh. And as she's begging, there's nothing people can do. And she slowly, just like everyone else, kind of falls asleep. And another Sherpa that's climbing the next day, her two Sherpas had to leave because they can't die just because she has no business being there. So then another Sherpa that's with someone else the next day is walking up and tries to give her water, tries to give her oxygen, and she's just gone. And that's it. That's it for her. And people, so when something like this year happens, they always say, should the Nepalese government stop issuing so many permits? And I don't think that's the case. If the Nepalese government wants to take the money for people that are coming to, it's such a poor country, that are coming to their country, I think they should. Yeah, here's a permit to come to Everest. If the conditions aren't good, or if it's crowded as shit, then it's up to the person in the guiding company to say, all right, we're not going to attempt it. But I don't like the thought of the Nepalese government, some guy in a suit being like, okay, it's up to me who climbs the mountain. It's like, no, you just let everyone go. And if someone wants to walk up a hill until they die, it's up to the guiding company and them to look out for themselves. But we'll see. The thing is you can only climb it late May, early June, and then the news stories come out like, what are we going to do? The commercialization of a mountain, and it shows the insane pictures of all the adults waiting in line to walk up a hill. And then the window to climb it leaves, and then the stories fade off and no one thinks about it, and then the next year, it all happens again. There's hundreds of other mountains you could climb that are the physical test, the adventure, but they're just not Mount Everest. It's just less of a barbecue story. It's like I climbed Mount Denali. It was like, no one cares, Tim. It's like I climbed Mount Everest. It's like, Tim, look at you. Get this guy a beer, Timmy. But I've always been kind of fascinated with Mount Everest. Thought I'd talk about it for a little bit. But I hope you guys are having a great weekend. I'm going to cut it off there. Why? Starving why? Shamita.